Hi everyone, you're listening to the Vialucci Podcast, uncensored and completely unedited discussions about life and everything in it. We hope you enjoy the show.
I just thought of something. Were you drinking your coffee?
Hi everyone.
Hiya.
Hi.
Oh, I went to
Really hot.
I went to get a coffee around the corner, and then somebody went. So I stood waiting, and they were. Oh, it's annoying because there's one person making them, which is 2 minutes apiece, and there's one person taking the money. You need two people making the coffee. Because that's way out of whack. And there's like 5 people waiting to pay, and they're going, what do you want? Yeah, okay, and what do you want? It's like, no, don't get all our money because you know we're going to leave.
Literally.
But as you're going down the list, and I'm having to go, can I have a, because there's 4 people into the site, and they just go, no, just get the money,
Do you want me to make it myself, you know?
Yeah, and the other girl just making it. I thought, no, I feel like I want to walk out now just to let you see me, but he's trying to get all the money from all the people rather than get somebody else to serve.
Yeah.
I worked in this cafe,
Yeah.
and they put me on the coffees, and I was so bad. They had so many complaints.
Making them.
Yeah. And like, I do my best, but I just never really got it with the cafe.
Is it not fairly straightforward? I thought everything's machines.
No, because there is an art, there's a skill to it, and like, and eventually they just took me off it. And it's just like,
It's just not for you.
yeah, I was
What
just
were
like,
you
I'm
getting
not-
wrong? We sort of giving them Pepsi instead of...
They said the milk was burnt. They said it was cold. They said it was either milk was burnt or it was cold.
Oh dear.
They said that it hadn't been done properly. That it was too much froth, not enough froth on their cappuccino. They're like, my cappuccino's all froth.
Right.
I'm like, that's what a cappuccino is.
My leaf
That's why you
doesn't look like a
shouldn't
leaf.
drink. That's why
Yeah.
you shouldn't drink cappuccinos because there's nothing there.
Oh, that was
It's
gonna
like
say.
foam.
Yeah, so when I was in, I was waiting for the coffee, and she went cappuccino something, and somebody came to the side of me, and I thought, out the corner of my eye, it looks like a kid, but I can only see his head, and I thought, right, I can't look because it might be somebody that's just like, I can't just go like that and look at them because it's too weird. And I thought, I'm sure that's a kid. And I thought, but it might just be a little fella or something like that. Because he was just, he was quite stable. I thought a kid would move around a lot, but I'm just.
And what's the kid doing in
Buying
Soho?
coffee.
Buying
Right,
coffee at 9 in the morning.
They had the little things.
He's
and
had a hard life.
yeah, he was putting little things on or whatever. And then I thought, I saw this, I'm going to look. So I just turned around. It was a kid. I'm not kidding you. Must have been
Wow.
10. I thought it's illegal.
When was the first time you had coffee and tea when you were younger?
Oh, I didn't have any. Are you joking?
No, I can't remember.
I don't know, 8 or 9.
No.
Yeah.
I must have been in my 20s.
Like tea. Like, tea's nothing.
No,
Like,
God, no.
coffee. I was always
I
offered
didn't drink
it.
water till I was
Yeah.
about 25.
I was always offered it, but I never necessarily like.
But is that not illegal? I just assumed like caffeine. No, it must be because in
Yeah.
Tesco's, when you buy the thing, you have to get the 16-year-old in Tesco's. It comes up if you try and scan an energy drink.
Really?
I think that it does get. I think some things get flagged, but I'm not necessarily sure it's illegal because
Energy drinks,
like,
coffee.
Oh, I had energy drinks literally every single night from like, I think I was like 10 years old. My mum didn't realise that I had a load of caffeine in it. And she'd
That's
go
all
down.
it does. How it
I mean, it's in the name.
It's like,
down.
I didn't realise that cigarettes had nicotine in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just be there like smoking
Yeah.
and drinking. She'd be like, oh God. No, yeah, she would go down and get me a V energy drink, you know, the ones
Yeah.
in the green. And every single night me and my sister would have a V energy drink. She'd be like, oh, God, they're a bit hyper
Bouncing
today.
off the walls. Yeah.
There's a big I was
I know,
saying
it's
this
really bad.
when we do a fitness podcast. The young kids have got a major problem in gyms with these energy drinks that are like 4 or 5 cups of coffee in these drinks. Everyone's drinking them. I'm seeing kids throwing up. They're like 18 and they're running around like toddlers, but they're like 18, 19. I think, and it got worse and worse. And now everyone's got these big monster drinks, which is by the way, I mean, it happened even last night. There's a guy who's an adult drinking a monster drink. I couldn't even explain to him that what he's drinking in the can is directly ruining his training because of the acid and things. But I thought I can't be bothered. But they're getting high. It's not doing anything. They're just getting high. These kids en masse are getting high in the gyms. They're all being sold it. Listen, we better get to the royals.
Hello. Right. So we're here to discuss the
Right, so,
British royal family.
Will,
There we go.
Press record, mate. We'll go now. Are we back on? Or are we
it's
still?
fine,
Right, let's do. Right, so fuck's sake.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the royals. Mm-hmm. Now, you and I read the spare book.
Yeah.
You said you've read most of it.
I've read most of
Okay.
it. It's long.
Okay, yeah, we're not doing a review of the book, but How
is the book that someone else wrote for him?
I don't think it. Do you know what I realised? It's probably the best read book I've ever listened to. And I've listened to everyone.
The best read book.
Yeah, he's got a lovely voice, but I had to speed it up by 1.2 because it's. I was just like,
not you as well.
Oh no, I had to.
It's like him.
I had a week to read it. Listen to it. Yeah, to listen to it, and I was just like, okay, so
it's a long book.
If I speed it up, it's now.
It's like 20 hours, and you get it down to about
10 hours.
It feels like cheating. But anyway. But as I was listening to it...
Sorry, such a millennial.
An audiobook, usually they sound like an audiobook. The pattern, the speech, somebody's reading it. And some people are better, but usually it's always better when the person reads it themselves. But that's probably psychology. But when I was reading it...
Well, sometimes as well with that, you sometimes have that person's voice in your head anyway.
Yeah, so it's matching what you expect.
Yeah, so I mean, those Steve Coogan's done a couple of the Alan Partridge books as audiobooks, and they're great because he's doing it in character. So it's and when I'm reading it, because I did read one of them, and I was like, when I was reading it, it was okay, it was pretty funny, but I was reading it with his voice, and then but actually having him do it, it's like having a whole few new episodes, so it's great. Yeah.
But because I had to keep reminding myself, he hasn't done this before as well. So as it's reading and it just flows, it's the best one I've ever, in terms of just, it sounds like somebody's not reading. I think that's what I mean. It just flows so easily. It sounds like he's just talking. And I think he's never done this before. Anyway, so there
was probably a lot of prep and a lot of training, it was a bit
over the years as well, like being in the public eye.
But you still, when you read into a mic, you think it just changes something if you haven't done it a lot, but it doesn't. It's like when you put a camera on in front of somebody. As soon as that camera goes on,
true.
It's slightly changed. Anyway, but even last night, I forgot how well read this is. Like it just flows like he's just thinking. That you don't get the idea of this book. Anyway, so it's called Spare. I'd seen it in the shops, and I have.
It was a big deal when it came out. It came out
in January.
Yeah, all that just passed me by because I have no interest in the Royals whatsoever, outside of just how silly it is.
The spectacle of the whole thing,
and because of the education, I didn't know. I don't know who's who. I didn't know what the Queen looked like or what, because I haven't got a TV, so I didn't know. I knew the brothers just because people get a Meghan, but I couldn't tell you what the other one looked like or what his missus looked like, or once you get to who's who, I don't know who anybody is.
It all gets a bit sketchy after that. You got your main characters, and after that, your supporting
artists.
It gets a bit fuzzy about who's
but what I'm saying is, I had zero interest in, but I forced myself to listen to the book because, and I think while I'm explaining, it's because of the context of why I listened to it. Just to say, I'm not interested in one way or the other. The whole thing's a bloody joke, but everyone kept attacking him and Meghan for the last year, constantly. And I thought, they can't be that bad. It's constant. But anyway, so I thought, it's probably quite interesting because everyone's on the attack, which means he's got something interesting to say. So then one day I thought, right, I'd seen the book and I didn't know what spare meant. I just thought he's extra.
Air in the spare.
Yeah. So I thought, why don't they call it The Spare rather than Spare? Because spare, if you don't know anything, just spare what? Until you think maybe.
But then it makes you intrigued to read it.
Yeah, but I just thought if he said The Spare, you'd go, oh, he's the Spare. But most people probably picked up on it, but I just didn't. But I'd seen the book for months, and then one night I thought, right, everyone's attacking him. There's got to be a reason because he doesn't come across like you'd pick up.
He was annoying, and I don't normally go with this. I don't normally say, "Oh, well, this group of people dislike something, therefore I must like it, or there must be something in it." But it was annoying. A lot of people I don't like. So it made me go, I want it. And I was interested in it because I was like, it seems to be driving some people mad who I dislike intensely.
So I looked it up. I just thought, let me look at the book I looked it up online just to read what it said. And I had comments on there of people who've downloaded the book, apparently. And they all, when you look at comments of something or reviews, they're all over the place. 2 words, bit misspelled, different lengths.
Can I probably, I guess, a lot of 5-star reviews and 1-star reviews.
Yeah, it was very.
There was hardly.
Yeah, it was hardly.
Either love it.
None in the middle. Yeah.
Well, this one was all hate. But here's the thing: they were all the same length, and you could have read that it was all it was the same sort of cadence in the sentences and the length, and it was all well written. But it was done not that people had done it, but journalists had done it. That sort of language where you go, that's a professionally written thing.
But they do that though, don't they? And they make Twitter pages, especially, I think it was like Meghan was saying that her mum that made a Twitter page and like was just writing abuse about Meghan and doing hashtags we hate Meghan or something like that.
I looked down the list and it was all hate and it was all the same sort of thing. It wasn't a mess. It was all, and it made me laugh because it was always like, he's a childish idiot, this, that, the other. Oh, he shouldn't have been given a book. Oh, he's a scam. I thought, hang on. You must have, if you downloaded the book, so you must have liked him to a degree.
Yeah.
You're giving him the money.
Pure hate. Because even if you didn't like it, you go, well, it was all right. I didn't read it. But no, it was like, he's a silly this, he's attention seeking, money grab. And I thought, if you've downloaded the book, surely you must have been a mild of interest. But I thought, right, I've got to listen to this because he's obviously like, this is a clear like attack on him.
Yeah.
And like, when I listened to it, I struggled because I thought, I'm not going to know who anybody is. I don't know anyone. But I listened to it. And as I said, it's really well read. It starts, I think, does it start with the day of the funeral? Oh, I can't remember now. But
I think it was like the lead up to the time when he was told
that
his mum,
But having gone through it, I suddenly had like oh, right, I get it now. And the other thing was I was waiting for him to be nasty. And I forgot when listening to the book the first time I listened to it. And I got about 3/4 away and I thought, he hasn't come across nasty, not even once. Like I was waiting for it. Then I forgot. But I thought, God, I haven't had any spite from him. He's not that type of person.
Well, interesting you said, I mean, I haven't read the book, but I've listened to bits here and there and I've read extracts and stuff again, because it was a big deal when it came out. But yeah, the quotes that they picked up on, the things that they would say, oh, look at this is dreadful. Oh, because I'm reading this in Daily Mail. Yeah. Sometimes I read Daily Mail to annoy myself, and I now read the comments. To
I go straight to the comments.
Yeah. Same. I love a Daily Mail comment section. It's
the best I literally go to the best, and then I go to the worst.
It's literally if you just want to despair at the psyche and zeitgeist of the nation.
Oh yeah,
Daily Mail comment section never lets you down. It really
100%.
does. And what's this then?
The comment section about
quotes from the book.
Comment.
Oh yes, and the one thing that they really picked, because there wasn't any negative things that they could pick up on. Really, these quotes.
Yeah, there's nothing.
They made a big deal about the army thing, where he was just like, I probably killed like
his kill count.
Yeah, I killed like 50 people. I tried not to think about it because they trained us in a way, because I went through army training, whatever, and this is what we're told to do, and we're told to dissociate, and I tried not to think about it. Yeah. Because this is my job, and that's what I was out there to do. And people took offence that people were like, he's a he's a psychopath. And I'm
but if he had done nothing, then they would have said, well, he did nothing.
He did nothing for us. He did nothing for the country.
Well, I think that's a reasonable statement. It's like, this is I was doing a job. It's like saying, well, I don't think about the person. I'm a surgeon, and I don't think of when someone's on the operating table, I don't really think of them as a person. I just think of them as right. Okay, they're a bunch of kidneys and bits that I need.
And for about 10 hours audit to get nothing, like if they got that sick.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, but I guess if you hate someone, you pick up on everything, and then anything they do is just not good enough.
Yeah,
so if
it's an uncharitable reading.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if you've got that bit, but he gets fined with a missile. There's one bit where they come across a kid like in the road, and it's like set up. And they go to get the kid, and then a missile comes flying by. So he was well in it. I mean, I think he was flying the Apache, and they had to get people off a mountain and all this sort of stuff. But my point was that I had no interest in it. But when I listened to it, and this is why I tell everyone to listen to it, because you're never I think I said this last week, you're never in your lifetime going to get somebody that's lived that type of life, because there's not many people in the world that live that type of life, that aren't going to be doing it via a PR agency, if you know what I mean, like a full-on. But what I mean is, it's not going to be like completely handled by. I think you're not going to get somebody who's removed from that life and saying, "Look, this is what it was like from the start." You're never going to get. You're always going to get the PR.
It's like reading the book, a book or an account of someone who's maybe escaped from North Korea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're getting a look into this kind of very weird,
and you have to think
the world that you don't read. That's very secretive and you don't know a lot about.
And you've got him from birth telling you everything about what, not attacking them, not even one, but just going, this is what we did.
Just laying it out.
And a lot of it is like, hang on, it's just breezed past the thing about, like, he's just going, oh yeah, so we did the thing. But Yeah, there was.
Oh, they also had a thing about that he shagged some woman in a field and he was 16.
Oh, yeah.
Behind
He
the
was like
pub.
18 or
Yeah,
something.
behind, yeah.
And they were like, oh, this is appalling. And I'm like...
What would have been a good thing for him to do on the bed of roses? With
And they're like, and he smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
I
just
know.
like, oh, my God. And he swore. You know, it's like, all right, cool. If that's the worst you've got.
I loved Harry back in the day. I loved that he was rebellious, and you'd see him in the papers, and he's coming out of a nightclub, and you're just smoking weed. I was just like, yeah,
Well, that's what comes
you're
with-
relatable right now.
He was, yeah.
What comes across from the book is actually you realise he said the whole way through he was basically push. He wouldn't accept that his mum's dead.
Yeah.
Like for years, he was saying she's hiding because of what they've done to her. She's going to come back. He said, but I knew, but then I couldn't for years. He said I was making excuses like she's hiding. No, but she wouldn't do that to us. But they've done it. It's the only option she's got. And when
Like a
people say-
defence mechanism.
Yeah, but for years,
Yeah,
like
it was shocking because didn't he see the pictures of
nothing. He said
his mum
he
in
said
the
there's
car?
two brains. Yeah.
He actually saw the pictures of her in the car because he wanted to see it.
Yeah.
He wanted to see, her death and
Yeah.
be like, okay. But then that didn't really give him any answers because
But
she looked so peaceful, like she wasn't dead.
yeah.
And in his head, he was just like, oh no, okay, she's still alive.
She's gonna come
She
back.
is still alive.
But it just you forget as he's going through like
Yeah.
school and he's still thinking like, and he still hasn't had. He said he teared up once. That was it.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to cry. He said I've only. He's like going to the army. He said I've only cried briefly once. He hasn't really accepted it. Anyway, so the whole thing. Okay,
Nice,
that
normal.
was the context. Yeah.
behaviour.
But my thing
A
was
totally normal family.
we
Yeah.
get to the end and I realise, it really is a business. There's no family. I mean, we'll talk about it, but there's a bit where they cancel his security. He walks in the room when he's in America and the bodyguard's on the phone saying, I can't leave them and just go. And he comes off the phone. He said, no. They've like a month. He said, "There's no security. That's it. We've got to go. There's nothing." And the guy said to him, "But you are. We know you're the number one target for terrorism. You and the wife and your child." And he tries to get in contact with the Queen, and she won't take his calls. His grandmother. But
that's the thing. Is that look, I am not an advocate about quite the opposite of the royal family, but I think that is bullshit. I think that's a really petty, scummy move.
The few million grand.
Yeah.
She's got the maturity. She's not like an older brother.
Because I think Liz Truss, who I think is, if we lived in a just functioning society, should be in a stock somewhere, and we can all just throw lettuces whenever we want,
a brick wrapped in a lettuce.
Yeah. Like if we had that's the ideal thing. But like, yeah, she should get police protection because she's a former PM. Like you can't have her on sort of video wearing a orange jumpsuit, with some dude in a mask with a sword.
Yeah, because everyone knows them.
And everyone knows
their face.
they haven't got security. It's in the papers.
Basically like, oh yeah, see you later.
When he's
good luck.
going through the army, they eventually had to pull him out after years because they've said when they caught some guy, not the Taliban, whoever it was, they caught him, they questioned him, and they said they were basically zoning in on where he was using the media. They said, well, they're hills, and they were closing in just from the media.
Report from an Australian publication, wasn't
that rings a bell, actually.
I think at the time, it
was another country.
It was another country
Yeah.
because this is the thing that keeps happening is that. Because I read, I was doing a bit of reading about the woman Prince William is allegedly having an affair with, and that is only being talked about in French and German publications.
Oh, sorry, I spaced out. Prince William had
He's having an affair.
He's having an affair?
Allegedly. He has a mistress, yes, who is also she's, I don't know, lady something Duke, married to some Duke. Her son was one of the page boys with one of their kids. I can't remember which one, the oldest one, the annoying one. And yeah, they were page boys at the coronation together, and they see laughing, joking around.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they had photos of them. So yeah, that's apparently a thing.
Apparently that's it.
Oh dear.
So, and the other thing, and we'll get onto it now, but when he speaks about when he's told about Diana's died. So who's his dad? Charles comes in. So bear in mind what I've just said about the Queen. So Charles comes in and he says to him, like, dear boy, mum's been taken to the hospital, blah, blah. And he said, well, she'll be all right. She's gone to the hospital, so she'll be fine. No, she's gone to the hospital and blah, blah, and she's died. He said his hand was on my knee and he told me, and that was it. Then he left.
Yeah. He says, "My darling boy."
Yeah, you just the hand was on the knee briefly. That was it. Then he left the bedroom.
Yeah.
No, your mum's dead. And then nothing.
Cuddle, you know.
He shook hands, saluted, and left.
Well, he says about he never saw anybody hugging or kissing. And there was a famous thing about when his mum went travelling. Charles's mum went, the Queen, and she came back. And there's a famous photograph. I looked it up where after 6 months of being away, he comes off the train and she's just shaking his hand. And he said, "What you see in front of the camera is exactly behind. There's no." And when I came, I thought, God, it's a business. There's no family there. There's none.
That's the weird thing is, I think just from anecdote, absorbing all this stuff from Meghan and Harry and stuff, is that, and I think that's what really shocked, put her on the wrong foot, put Meghan on the wrong foot. We'll get around to talk about Meghan. I have my own ideas about that. I don't think she's a hero. I don't think she's a villain. I think she's exaggerated some things, and but she is a victim. She certainly got screwed over quite badly.
Yeah.
But like with I forgot what I'm talking.
Oh no, because
The
obviously the affection thing. Obviously, Meghan comes. She's obviously a lot more affectionate. She probably might have gone up to them, hugged them. It's not.
That was it.
Yeah.
So, now back there. Okay, right. So
Put you right on the
But
path.
what happened is that she said she got introduced to that. Said she got introduced to the Queen.
Yeah.
And like the senior royals, so Charles and everyone, and. She was given a full crash course. Oh no, well, this is all behind closed doors. This is in like their little private room around the back, And she was like, "Oh no, you've got to curtsy and you've got to do all this and say mom and sit there very proper and not speak unless you're spoken to, And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "No, but we're we're in the back room, We're in the green room. We can just hang out. We're not with the, there's no cameras. We can just relax and be ourselves, just be normal. Go,
I just want to give her a big cuddle.
Yeah, we'll just have a chat. And they're like, no. There is no back room. There is no, this is just this all the time.
Yeah, he actually talks about the formality. He said, now that his brother, he said, it's strange to have to sort of bow to like your immediate family, but like it's weird. And he says like she went along with everything. He said she spent like an hour curtsying, learning to curtsy. She did it perfect. She got it right. It's not like she came and said, "Oh, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that." But eventually it has to stop. And you go, no, this is for real. And there's a bit where Kate is like just seems off with her for like months, and eventually they have to get together and they sit down. And Kate tells her, "No, I came in one day and I said like what it was is because it gets really bad. They have to sit down and have a conversation." And she said, "Well, what happened is a few months ago, whenever it was, Susan wasn't feeling too well and blah 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 blah." And she said, "Oh, maybe it's just because you try the time of your month, try this and that." And she sat on that for months until she said, "Yeah, and I thought it was just very disrespectful of you saying that to me." And she said, "But I just thought maybe that's what it is, and try this tea or whatever it was." Because me and my girlfriend,
you're like, maybe it's the weather or something.
But she held on to that as the reason why she was being off with her for months. That level of like, yeah, exactly.
Okay, fuck her. Because she's not even like
that pretentious. I said I had to apologise. I said I'm so sorry. I just didn't know that was
It's just a normal thing. It's a woman talking to another woman, being like, it might be this.
What you realise is she's not coming in as an independent woman. I'm going to do this. It's somebody that's a human being and has gone out of their way to do the curtsying and things, and it just wasn't enough. Like, no, you're not bowing and
scraping enough,
and you're not inhuman enough. You're not clicking in to this robotic business. So the family thing that's what came away thinking, oh my God, this is just
it's you're going through the motions, but you're not. I don't feel you really believe that we are the God's people.
Yeah, you're not. You don't believe it enough.
You're going through and you're saying yes, mom, and not making eye contact and be very respectful. But I don't believe in your heart that you actually believe that.
Well, isn't that 1984 when he's holding up the fingers? And I can't remember what he says when they eventually catch the guy. And say, how many fingers am I holding? 4. I go, but no, it's 5. You go, but it's 4. He goes, okay. And he goes, okay. Eventually, he goes, oh, it's 4. And he goes,
whatever you say.
He said, but you have to believe it's 4. He goes, I'm telling you it's 4. I go, no, you. And eventually, crack goes, I see why. I see. But it's just like she was going out of her way to try and do everything to please a family, not realizing this is a machine. Yeah. And it really, this is for real. So that's what I came away with. But yeah, so so it's obviously about him spare, and he talks about at the beginning about he realised at the age of 20, it's not like it's not spoken as in jest that he's the spare. He's told. Like he uses the word, it's explicit amongst the family. He said, in case of a bone marrow transplant or blood, they have to be given. There has to be a spare person, and they're not allowed to fly on the same plane. It's not a joke. You're told you are the spare because of those things that are needed. And I think when he was told when Diana gave birth to him, that Charles first said, thank you for giving me like the spare, like we're okay now. But to know that constantly through life,
from a really young age as well, like
you're the backup.
You're the backup.
You're the B team. You're the reserve squad.
You've got to protect the thing.
Your place is on the bench. And they're probably not going to call
later on when it comes about all the fake stories that have come out. It's later on in the book, and he goes through some of the major ones that you've sort of heard of, and he says, there was one where. It was like you have to give in to the media for certain things that the upper class, the Queen and all that handle for a certain story, and if they need a certain story, then you have to let them get away with that one so that they don't do that one. And the whole thing's like chess, but the main thing is everyone above has to be protected by the person below. So some stories came out about him because they were going to put some stories out about Will, and then they said, well, we're going to put the story out about him instead. But he has to agree that it happened, and we won't do the story about his older brother. All that, and because I go to people to say, look, they can't say this. You say, listen, they can't attack him, so you have to let that one go. That is it. You go, what's going on here? And there was what?
Well, I was going to say, but that's the thing is that you are not allowed. I mean, this is why I think that the whole thing is utterly bizarre. It's because you are not allowed. We're not allowed to discuss the royal family. Really, we're not allowed to. In the mainstream media, let's say, in the papers or on TV or whatever, not allowed to sit down and have a discussion about the structure, about whether we should, where it should be going, is it a good thing or not, is there anything we could change? They work for us, and we can get rid of them at any time. Like they could put a bill through Parliament tomorrow and restructure the whole thing, get rid of him. We can. We can nationalise all those properties. And we can take them. We can do anything we want.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, but the problem, they won't, because the media know they need us, and we can turn it around in the day. And they need us for the money and for the show. They need us, but we need them to sell stuff. And it's this constant moving of parts to say, right, we want this. Like I said to you before, like Will said, they would love me to die. Because they'd get rid of me, and it'd be a great story. They could put the flags up, and it'd be amazing, and then we could have some more ticker tape and all that sort of stuff. But to know that,
it's so heartbreaking.
But there's one bit. It was to do with the Rebecca. Was it Rebecca? Who was the mirror? The
Waggate.
Oh, Rebecca
Varney.
Rebecca Vardy.
Who was one that beat her husband up, didn't she? The EastEnders fella. Who was?
What is she?
She was the editor.
Now the managing director for News UK now.
Yeah, it's something like that. She was the editor. Remember, she got in a lot of trouble.
The ginger lady.
Yeah, that's
Rebecca Moore.
She went to prison. Didn't she, over phone hacking?
But she had. Yeah, that was it. The court case. But she had a vendetta against him. There's one bit. He was going through the stories of just when you heard this is what happened. And there was one that said that Meghan had sacked some girl and made her cry, and she'd been there for years, and like she didn't care, and she was in tears, and she left. And it turns out she said no, she never actually met that girl. There was somebody sacked by the royal family for something that she'd done that was nothing to do with Meghan, and Meghan had actually wrote her a letter to say like, I'm sorry that blah blah blah. It's nothing to do with it, but they said somebody left in tears. Stick Meghan in there. It just wasn't true. And the favourite one was he had done some. There was, when they said, "Oh, he's allegedly doing drugs." They tried to do that thing about he's on drugs, but never had any proof.
Even though he did say he was just I was in coke all the time.
Well, they came to him and said, "We know you've done drugs. We've got a thing." And he said, no, he just denied it. And there was no photograph.
He was smoking weed. He was in
cocaine
in
and he said,
surprise, because guess what? He's hanging around with a bunch of people who
students
do coke.
Exactly.
Well, no, just wealthy people.
Well, it turned out at Eton,
bankers,
they were constantly smoking weed all the time, constantly.
Well, because they're a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah, exactly.
But he said, so they said, we're going to release this letter. And he said, they haven't got any photographs, so he just didn't do it. And then it just went away, the story, because they were just trying to say, if you come and admit it. They said, the editor said, they're not going to print it, But if you admit to it, I want come in and speak to me, and I'm just going to tell you why it's wrong. But you've got to admit to it. So we won't put anything in, but come and speak to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
it's ridiculous.
What they did is
like Trump. To be fair, always comes back to Trump. He just blew the door because he's just like, screw it, I don't care. Just print it.
Whatever, shit. More news articles.
I don't care. Yeah, it's more publicity for me. I don't give a shit.
People like it.
I have no shame. I have no shame. I've had it surgically removed. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's why like for when I was growing up, if that came out anyway, if the pictures came out, I'd be like, oh, good for Harry.
Human being, not a robot.
He's having a good old time.
Yeah. Robots can't do drugs. That must be one of us. The lizards don't do drugs.
Looking like driving around like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas. Just looking for helicopters.
Sweating.
It just made him more human, you know?
But so what they did is he had done, they do charity things all the time. They're going opening up this and that. And he'd opened up a rehab centre. So him and like a few people went down there with his mind was in there. And they edited out a picture of him walking in the door to the rehab and cut everybody else out and said, look, he's in rehab secretly. He said, but there was 4 other people walking in with me, but they cut it out with just him and his hand on the door with the rehab. Yeah. And they said, look, he's clearly a drug addict. I think, just that, not even, let's just cut the picture out. Stick it, that'll do. Not even like a bended, no, we know what we're doing.
The narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah. But he says a few things like, and you go, oh, right, yeah, so they're not bending anything. Like you think that's not legal. Just bun it on there. They're not allowed to argue back. I think what they call it, what do they call the thing that they've got the royal families? No comment, don't deny, something like that. Right, so my thing coming away was the fact that there is no royal family. Drop the name family, it's just a con, it's a business.
Family, like a different type of family. Yeah.
What was your takeaway from what you'd seen? What did you come across?
I think for what he's experienced, he's come out pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like he lost his mum when he was 12 and there was no emotional attachment to any of this family. He couldn't express his emotions. He couldn't talk to anyone. There probably wasn't any therapy around that. It was sort of, walk behind the coffin and everything. There's just nothing to be like, you can let it out, you can cry. Yeah. And then obviously he had that defense mechanism of thinking that she's still alive. And then later on, obviously his grandmother, the Queen Mother, died. And then his childhood best friend died in a car crash, which obviously took him back to when his dad told him that his mum died, and that was 18. So to go through all that trauma and then go into the army, and this, I think anybody would come out fucking crazy.
And the fact that he chose to go into the army, he could have just lifted up, done the drugs, and
it's because he said in the book, he's just like, he would pick fights because he wanted to feel something. Like he couldn't feel anything, Did
you get to be where he dates the girl that he meets and they go in Africa?
Oh yeah, well, Chelsea.
Yeah, she doesn't know who he is. She's grown up in like farmland, South Africa, and like she doesn't. He said because that was the thing. He said as soon as anybody speak to any girl, they're right, and they found out who it was. Their eyes would enlarge, and straight away he said she didn't give it to you. She barely knew. She didn't ask me any questions. But then there's a bit where she gets followed about, like the journalists are following her everywhere, and she calls up in tears and said, what the is going on? There's people, like friends of friends have got people outside their house. Everyone I know has got people outside their house banging on the door asking them about it. And she said, I can't do this, like, but everyone she knows has got, so she has to knock it on the head. And that's what, again, the journalist thing, he's thinking, so that's gone.
I understand his anger against journalists and everything, because obviously the car chasing.
Just the mum thing.
Yeah, literally. Because there was, when he went there, I think he asked the taxi driver, he asked the taxi driver to go through the underpass at 65 mile an hour. And he went through and he came out the other side and he was just like, was that it?
Yeah.
It was a tiny underpass. Yeah. Even if the driver had been a little bit drunk, he said he wouldn't have hit the wall if no one was chasing them.
Yeah.
And he was talking to Wills, I say Wills like I know him, good old Wills, talking to Prince William and saying, and he did the same thing, went through the underpass to see what it was like. And but yeah, just to be like, well, it's definitely the paps and definitely the journalists and chasing them. And he said when he saw the pictures of his mum in the car, passed away, he said that all you could see was like flashes on her face or flashes on the windows. So obviously the paparazzi were taking pictures of her when she was
who
dead.
took? You never hear who
And
took those pictures. Who got there and didn't think, let me get her out. Let me get my camera up.
Let me get her out. See if she's still alive.
Imagine seeing a car crash in front of you and then going.
Well,
it's disgusting.
That's sociopathic. That is full on sociopathic.
She did walk away from it, I believe.
No, there's a famous photograph of her in the back out.
Yeah, with her sat on the pavement, basically.
But it'd be more.
She looked okay. There wasn't any visible injuries necessarily. I think she looked a bit shaken.
Jesus Christ! Like, pull a camera out.
But like, it's just like,
are you okay? Nothing.
It's just like the human decency, the human thing to do
that's sociopathic.
is to go in and just try and rescue as many people, see if they're alive, instead, oh God.
Well, I said before that the friend of mine worked at Stringfellas, his doorman there, and he said he was the one in 24, Kevin.
Oh, Keith Sutherland.
Yeah, he was in there. I won't go to the story about him, but he was a bit drunk. Let's just say that. And
I showed you the picture of him jumping in the Christmas tree.
Oh, I think you did. Yeah.
He's like, cool, right? Everyone have a happy new year. Just turns around, jumps.
He was out of it. My friend was telling me, but he
had a bit of a rep.
They had to put him out the back door, and he got to the driver went round the back because there's cameras out the front, and they put him to a Mercedes, and he said this huge guy with a camera jumped both knees onto the bonnet. The bonnet just completely went in, and he was going beep, 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 the camera,
oh my God.
And he said, I was looking at the car thinking, he's just ruined that. He didn't give, those people are out there, mate. So he talks about being basically harassed by two specific journalists at the end, and they get briefed about how much pictures are worth at any time through the year. Like they know £10,000 for any picture, 30 grand if you're doing anything weird, and it's like 100 and something grand. Yeah. And they talk about they found that one of the neighbours, they would go to the neighbours of the house and say, can I put a camera on your roof for like £100,000? And he said, most people ain't going to turn that money down. And he said, but you've got a camera on your neighbour's roof because they're paying that sort of money because they can pay their mortgage off with one photograph. And to imagine having that as a bounty on your head wherever you go. And he said he'd have the two cameras, one would go up and push him, and the other one would be there ready to take the photograph. But what do? Like someone's going to go and push you to start, and it's not $5,000. How much will it cost you? If you go and push that guy, you can pay your mortgage off, and everyone knows that. And you go, that's a big.
People swear at them and say weird stuff, outrageous things.
Well, one guy hit one guy.
Yeah.
They just rammed the car and they had to swerve to get round just to get the to pay your mortgage off, like just like one photograph,
disgusting.
And that's always there on you. So there was one bit talking about the where he what is it? They're stag hunting. You see that bit where they go to do the stag hunt?
What when his it gets pushed into his face.
So they shoot the animal.
Yeah, literally has his face.
But he said
pushed into the gut.
Force it right into
it. It's a tradition.
But I don't think he from what he
said.
Just say,
they shoot a stag and the guy he's with cuts it open and he said, we have to go on our knees. And he thought, I thought we was going to pray. And he said, he just grabbed me and he forced my head into its stomach and he just held it there. He said, I couldn't breathe. He said, I'm just breathing in blood and guts. And then when he stood out, he said, my nose was full of blood and he said, no, leave it. You have to leave it, let it dry. Now, if that happened in a council estate,
oh my God,
child services,
100%.
I've just seen. Have you any idea what I've just seen?
Someone's just shot a dog.
Yeah, someone's just shot a dog.
And then they're rubbing their 8-year-old's face.
I understand the hunting, and if you hunted a dog, it'd be different. But you've just cut an animal's stomach open and forced a child's face inside of it. And it's just like
that's scarring in itself. But I think from what from the writing, it felt like he didn't come away. He came away proud because it's like a sort of.
Well, he's a child.
Rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage,
yeah.
And obviously he's told it's a rite of passage. A rite of passage. So I guess in your head you're like, oh, okay. I feel, I've become a man now,
It's like an initiation ceremony or something, when they
if you don't know any different, it feels. But my point is, anyone else. You can't do that. No. That's a crime. That's going to be a crime. I've taken your son out. I've just shoved his face in a. Well, you can get arrested. But it's just like, nope.
You'd just be like, out of that context, you'd be like, why did you do that?
Yeah. Explain it to me.
What did you do that for?
Yeah, we just do it. What?
It's just something we do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
No, it's tradition.
Yeah.
So we've got to do it.
Yeah.
There's a bit I just remembered. He talks about, think of this, again, talking about like an alien world where This is one of the things he just says completely nonchalantly. He's talking about how big Sandringham is, where they are, like the Scottish. Is it Scotland? Yeah, Scotland. And he says he's talking about how big it is, right? And he says, yeah, you could get lost because you go through one door, but then you get another door, and now you don't know where you are. And he said sometimes you'd walk in and you could see Papa, he calls him, because he's a modern.
Papa.
He calls it Papa. And he says he could sometimes you'd be walking in and he'll be like doing headstands because he's got a problem with his neck and he was told to do these headstands. Which I was thinking,
hanging from the ceiling.
Just some 90-year-old doctor has
with his
given
cloak on, It's just,
get a bat and a frog.
What an image.
Yeah.
He'd be in the corner and he's cocooning himself.
But he says, sometimes you walk in. He said you could walk in and one day he'll be doing headstand and next thing you'll just see him getting dressed by his valet, blah, 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 blah.
I was going to say, slowly dislocating his jaw and swallowing a caribou whole. You know what I mean? And then he'll sleep for 3 days.
Forked tongue. But I think, hang on. So you're that means he's a dad at this point. You're walking in on him. And did you just say that your dad would be getting dressed by the valet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a...
Yeah, and I took, hang on, he just breezed up. So your father is being dressed by another man. Could you not... I mean, what are you talking about?
He has someone to brush his teeth for him as well.
Yeah, well, that was the famous thing. They found out he has somebody that puts the toothpaste on them, like when that...
That's got to be really awkward. I mean, imagine... What do you...
I don't think he was actually brushing it. I think he put toothpaste on the brush. They'd go in and do his toothbrush for him because obviously he couldn't do that himself. But just that. Think of the... irony? I'm a man with children... and I've got another man dressing me. Not like for an award ceremony. You just walk in, he's getting him dressed. What are you talking about? Another man?
Like every single day.
Yeah.
Well, you think...
Otherwise, you'd just be walking around in his pyjamas.
Think how delusional you'd have to be from a child. You don't know any different.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah.
You've never washed a plate. You've never had the finest food. You've never gone to make your food. You've never put anything out. He said when they
never had to wait at the bus stop for half an hour.
he said
in the rain, and you're late for work.
Well, he says they bring in the newspaper to say like what's going on, and they bring it on a silver platter, like all the newspapers of what's happening that day. But I thought, think how it normally comes across. But he can't see any of this because he's only experienced this. So the food never washed, never had a vacuum cleaner out, never cleaned anything, nothing. It's just, and to think, what would you be if you just didn't? I was thinking, like, do they really know about what a homeless person is? Like, they would never go down a road where there's homeless. They will always have a specific route that's nice and clean and held across. They would never see. But so are these just words that they hear?
Yeah.
Do they know about food banks that aren't just a food bank? Did you actually know what that is? You can't, because they're always going down held back crowds, clean roads, never stopping at any light.
And they're just introduced to people
From birth.
who smile and shake their hands, say, "Oh, hi there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, lovely to meet you."
Well, they make that joke about, I wonder if the Queen just thinks England smells of new paint.
Yeah.
Because it's a joke, but you go, well, if you don't know any different, nobody's going to explain to you. So the fact that he comes out normal, you go, Christ, he's come from like off a cloud.
Yeah, so that's it. Like, I'm so surprised he's come out.
Yeah.
Sort of normal. Sort of normal. I'm a bit of a dilemma because when I've been growing up, I've always loved the royal family because I don't know, I've been very British, and I listen to the Queen's speech me and my family, we sit around and listen to the Queen's speech, and it's all very nice.
Well, there's no reason not to.
Yeah,
why would you not if you've only seen good things?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's because you don't really read into... I mean, I was a child, and as you're growing up, you're just like, oh, it's kind of like having your nan on the TV. That's how it kind of felt.
Yeah.
But then obviously when you start reading into it a little bit more, and you've got Harry and Meghan, and you're just like, oh, actually, okay, I do sympathise with them and what they've been going through. And
funny enough, when later on he speaks to his brother, and he constant thing of trying to tell his brother, look, you've got to help me. Like, they don't care. Like, they're being what's going on, and his brother's just constantly like, we've all been through it, and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And he says to him a bit, have you had when they left the hospital, one in picture, it was on Twitter, one of the newspapers on Twitter page, and it was her and him leaving the hospital swinging a monkey. And it's a funny monkey. And he goes, he doesn't understand. He's like, well, we've all been through it. You go, no, do you not understand what they're doing there? It's not like a cheeky little monk. Do you not get it?
Yeah.
And he just doesn't get it. And there was time they had each other's throats, like he was pinned up against the wall because they were fighting him. But about like they said he couldn't. His brother couldn't comprehend what he was saying. So his brother was saying, "Look, I love you, but you've got to stop this." He had no idea. He just couldn't get into his head that it sounded like the brother was genuinely worried for Harry, because he was as if Harry was like making too much. And he said, "No, you don't understand what's going on." And
Super
he said,
racist.
"I love you, and like I'm trying to help you." And Harry's like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know
what I'm going through." It's like anything. You don't have that life. You're not going through what I'm going through, so you don't understand.
And again, the whole way through, he's just trying to get through to them, but it's just a wall of like. No, he said there's one bit where he wants to speak to them about like what he's going through and all that, and he said, "I see my dad and my brother coming across the lawn." He said, "I thought we were going to meet, like to have a chat," and like I had a little smile on my face. He said they were coming towards me, shoulder to shoulder, just staring at me. And he said my stomach dropped. He said they just came to tell me I've got to stop being this and stop being that. Like there was no conversation.
There was one part in the book though that I thought maybe if Prince Harry sort of opened up to William a little bit more, because I think he was saying that his brother was trying to talk to him about his mum, and he didn't want to talk about it, even when he was younger, and then as he was growing up, he didn't want to talk about it. And I think if he did talk about it when he was younger with his brother, I think maybe there would have been a bit more of
But the problem he talks about when he goes to school and they go to the same school and his brother's older. And he said, well, at least I've got my older brother there. But his brother like, stay away from me.
Yeah.
And you forgive him because you understand he's an older boy. He knows he's from the royal family as well. He just wants to be a normal kid. And here comes this
if any brothers kind of go, they go,
you're not
my annoying little brothers now come to the school. I wanted it to be just mine.
And I think it's not just that he's not like them. He's just one of those people that gets born in a certain family that's just an emotional person, like a soft emotional person. Where his brother, if his Will had another brother like him, it would have been fine. They would have just bought into it and gone on normal. But the fact that you get the idea that this is somebody that feels things a lot more, and he's sort of looking around constantly and just seeing these sort of stoic people everywhere, and that's just made it worse. Then you've got the fact that he's gone with that woman, and it's just compounded the problem because now he's an emotional person that is dealing with serious things, and they're just like, we're not seeing any of it.
Yeah.
Well, we joked earlier, but I mean, this is a lot to do with him. You know, from a very early age, he was told he was the backup.
I know,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Having to grow
it's just one of the
with that.
dimensions to the whole thing.
You are not really. You're only
not
important
important,
unless your brother dies.
Yeah.
You are there,
and then all of a sudden, all of a sudden, you become important. So fingers crossed, your brother doesn't die. But you've just got to be on standby just in case. For the
And
rest
now
of your
he's
life.
equally not as important because obviously
now he's had kids.
Now he's had kids, and George, in the line. So it's tough.
Well, and that's the thing is that basically it sort of freed him up. It sort of once he got married and had kids and stuff, that sort of really did free him up to just be like, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing. But,
I imagine saying, like, obviously, if my mum went to me, because I'm the second born child in the family, if she went, you know what, you're not that important. Your sister's the best.
But just explain nonchalantly.
Yeah,
like, no narcissist. Like, this is because your brother may need.
This is just the way
you have to protect the throne. That's all it is.
It's just it's emotional neglect.
As I said about the stories, even to the point where they want to attack him, we have to protect the throne. So you have to take the story. You have to let them write the story about you, just constantly.
The spice must flow. Like it just has to keep moving. Like the money has to keep churning, and everyone has to keep doing their thing.
We touched briefly on his school. So I looked up the school that he went to. Now, Charles, you went to private school, so don't you gritting your teeth? It was Wokingham. Ludgrove School in Wokingham. So
because he played us at rugby.
So you literally went to one of the... What school did you go to?
Well, I don't want to say.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay. But it closed. But basically, it's closed down now.
Right. So, was it one of those? Okay.
Well, it was a boarding school, but it closed down because the Catholic Church said, we don't have any more money.
Right.
Yeah, cool Catholic Church.
Well, we've had to do a lot of payouts recently. Don't ask.
Well, they saw a bunch of monks with a bunch of kids
just like in a
money. Boarding school. They're like, this is
what was it
ticking
like?
Time bomb.
What was boarding school like?
Did you know any different, or was it just like, this is school?
Well, I went to we'll get on to me. But I went to sort of a mixed school, and then I went to a different school. Basically, that closed down during when I was about 15, and then the last 3 years went to a different school. I equate like the first school I went to didn't really have a lot of boarders. The second one was basically all boarders. So there was only 2 people who weren't me and another guy who weren't boarders in my entire year of about 120, 40 people.
Why would you have people that board and not board?
Because I live down the road.
Oh, it's not like you have to. It's just some people.
Well,
don't
it was most people did.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it was a weird thing. I equate it to basically just sticking kids in a boar stall.
Yeah.
For like 6 years. I don't think it's a very healthy environment. To be
Is
honest.
it like for an amount of term? Is that the way you're away for term?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, but you're just there and you're just at school. It's like living in your job. It's like sleeping under your
Right,
desk
yeah,
at work in the
Yeah.
office. I mean, it's not like...
And you can't guarantee like who's looking after you if they're going to be nice. You know, the teachers or anything. You can't guarantee that they're going to be emotionally...
No one's looking after you.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Is you're just...
The older boys.
Yeah. It's like being... Yeah, you just get... Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds just coming in and beating you up and taking your stuff and just doing whatever.
Or worse.
Worse. And like genuinely, there's like it's like prison, like
Right, yeah.
young, no,
Well, it's balls,
young,
as you say,
young,
yeah, it's
young
balls,
offenders. And I think it's a very unhealthy environment to just let children be raised by other weirder children, maladjusted
When
children.
the blueprints of who you are being laid down, the
Yeah.
foundations, and you're going, right,
I think
we'll
it's-
take away your parents, shove
Yeah.
you over there, and there's some kids at 4 years older than you. They'll look after you because they're mature enough.
Fuck, they won't.
We'll let the sixth form, because that's what they did. I mean, they just let the sixth, the sixth form, just the prefects or whatever, just run the
The
place.
teachers are there just so they don't kill you. Like,
Didn't really see them much.
really, even that?
Yeah, genuinely.
Well, I looked up his school anyway. So it's basically a preparatory school for Eton.
He came, He came to our school and he had his arm broken at a rugby match.
So, I can't ask any questions about your school. What did you come away?
Two guys in dark suits
Oh, I bet,
were at the thing, with the dark with shades, whatever. But like only 2.
In fact, he talks about smoking weed one day up in the toilets in Eton when he's smoking out. And he said, like, I couldn't forget that I'm royal family because wherever I go, there's a bodyguard there and there's police outside everywhere, wherever I go. And he said, I kept thinking, I'm supposed to feel protected, but I feel like the protection's out there on my own where nobody can see me. He said, I feel like if I could just get over the security, I'd be fine out there. Nobody would know, but I'm surrounded by this
like a
wall.
prison,
But it doesn't make me feel safe. It makes me
suffocated.
feel there. So it's a Ludgrove School in Wokingham, a boarding school. I was looking, so 20 prime ministers. This is right. I was looking at, so how many, we've had 57 prime ministers. 30 of them went to Oxford, 14 went to Cambridge, so there's 44 in all. Now, if you think about that as your leaders from 2 schools, like 95% of them have just come from that place.
Yeah, there's
You
no
go,
variety of...
No, but it says that there's a system in place in
there
the
is a
country.
yeah,
It's not about right or wrong. How can you have 2 schools for that one job?
Yeah.
Well-
all go there.
How can you have someone empathise on the other side of the...
We just want a bit more of a plethora.
It's not a bit more,
of,
it's ridiculous.
Opinions and
Yeah,
points
yeah.
of views and backgrounds. I was going to say, I swear when Tony Blair won that landslide but a big victory in the 97 election. So lots of new Labour MPs coming in. So a big Labour victory. And even then, Parliament was about 58% of all the MPs had been to Eton.
Yeah.
Not even boarding school, but just one boarding school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 20 prime ministers came from that one place. So I didn't realise the numbers. So there's only 200 kids that go there, but they've got 50 members of staff. So that's 4. Is that 4 for...
It's like a special. That's
one teacher
like
for every 4 kids.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a sort of special school kind
Yeah,
of thing. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's
my-
kind of like
staffing levels.
It's like a nursery because my sister's just
Yeah.
putting my nephew into nursery, and it's just like one minder with every 3 babies.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that.
Classroom assistant or whatever. The hell they
Yeah,
call it.
classroom assistant. Yeah.
So I thought, okay,
One bouncer, baby bouncer.
so that's normal then.
Warned you, you're out.
And it's
I
on,
love your thought process.
and it's on his school is on 200 acres of land. So
200 acres of land.
yeah, the school. So 1 acre, a football pitch is 2 acres. So it's 100 football pitches of land. I think, have you ever been to a football match and you've seen the pitch?
How do they need that much space? There's only 200
get
of them.
So it's got 11 pitches.
Free-range children.
Free-range.
Yeah, you've got to keep them healthy. The child zoo needs to be
royal kids.
Keeps them having to have a supply of children.
Yeah.
They need to
let them run, let them breathe.
Yeah, and you want free-range children. It's healthy. It's a better option. It's nicer for them as well.
Let them go hunt.
So it's got a swimming pool.
Be hunted. Sorry,
be hunted
through the woods. Yeah.
It's got a swimming pool.
Hunger Games.
It's got tennis courts. It's got 9-hole golf course, and 11 pitches.
What a waste of space.
I mean, the
My
school.
my old school used to have a golf course for some reason. I don't know why.
A whole golf course.
Yeah, I think it was only 9-hole. To be fair,
and apparently
my school was just all concrete, and we had this tiny little bit of like.
By the time you get up some speed, you've hit the other bush. Yeah. And Bear Grylls in 2021, he's a former student there, opened up an exploration centre for 2.5 million. I don't know what an exploration centre is.
I don't think he does either. That sounds like a bit of a
2.5 million is an
everyone
addendum.
Getting a hand out there, yeah.
But so what did I say it was? So 100 football pitches.
100 football pitches
for a school.
That's ridiculous.
That's half an acre per child. That's a lot of roaming area per child.
It's like, where's Tom? Oh, I don't know. I saw him go into the bushes, going into the forest a couple of days ago, and I haven't seen him since.
So he speaks about.
Imagine getting lost.
Well,
these poor children just like
talk about getting lost. So
Bear Grylls in themselves.
I just think they have a wall with all the names of the fallen on it.
we
never saw them again.
It's like the Vietnam War Memorial. It has all the missing as well.
All the inbred children. Right, so
the ones that are left are just going to be prime ministers.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It is like Hunger Games.
Games,
Kill all the rest of them off.
Yeah,
and then you go into
Parliament.
Parliament.
When I read up because I couldn't get my hand over, I had to look somewhere else to make sure I had the space right. I thought that is that amount of space, and so I was looking up the land that they own. So there's about 9 castles, like specific castles that they own up and down, and they've got royal residences, but there's 9 castles.
Yeah.
So Balmoral has 50 bedrooms, 50 bedrooms. So bear in mind, this is one of them.
I can't even. That's like saying 50 that,
and bear in mind, these aren't sort of pokey bedrooms. You can imagine what these are, Balmoral, but like these are big. You're talking sort of 10-foot curtains, sort of things.
I bet none of them are being used. Maybe like.
Well, that was what makes me sick. So do you know how many acres it is Balmoral is? Have a guess. Go on, have a guess.
Well, I mean,
so the school was
the
200
school was
acres.
200. Maybe like double that.
Balmoral, probably a lot, isn't it?
500, 1,000.
1,000 probably.
Bear in mind, I triple checked these everywhere to make sure, like even on the wiki page, on their page. So Balmoral, this is one residency for one family, 50,000 acres.
No.
25,000 football pitches.
Oh my God.
That's one of them.
That's
25,000, 50,000 acres, 25. I tried to find a number that wasn't that, and everywhere was that number. 25,000 for one family. It's not a museum, that's their residencies. So you can drive for miles, like that's just forestry. And I even looked it up. So what did I say? So 50,000 acres. Bournemouth is 11,500 acres.
Jesus.
Bournemouth, which is
get out of here, Bournemouth. You lose. Bye bye.
So 50,000 acres. Belfast is 28,000 acres. So bearing in mind, this is for one home.
Yeah.
25,000
in like a large metropolitan area.
That's ridiculous.
And I looked up some other ones. So the Sandringham, there's another one. 20,000 acres. So that's 10,000 football pitches.
Bloody hell.
10,000. So they've got, as I said, Bournemouth is 11,500. So put one house in the middle of that and times it by 5, nearly the space. One building for one family. Not all the add-on rules. That's there.
You get your steps in, wouldn't you?
Then
Wouldn't you just not, if you had all that land and all those houses and all these rooms and stuff, you would just lose track of things. I don't know if you'd be necessarily quite attached. You maybe get more attached to 1 or 2 places that you liked,
but they don't know any different. That's the thing. They don't know what space is. They don't know what they think of space would be caged. If it was us, like they would see that as being caged, to live on a street with people over there and people. That's caged.
I'd love to see a sitcom where they a real life, a better sitcom.
Let's get them and bung them in a council estate.
Yeah. Arrested Development. They lose all their money and they end up at the council estate.
Like Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, and just
Well,
yeah, because I haven't actually seen the rest of the development. So I was just like, something that's...
Wind's one of the biggest buildings, but it's got the smallest amount of land.
Yeah.
It's only 5,000 acres.
Oh,
Windsor.
dear.
So it's 2,500 football pitches.
Them.
They're pokey.
And when you're in Windsor, it doesn't feel that big, but you realise a lot of these, like, you don't realise when you see the building, you don't know how far the space inside and how far it goes back because you just see the outside. So that's 5,000 acres, but 2,500 football pitches. So one of them's 25,000 football pitches. The other house they've got is 10,000 football pitches, and the Windsor one's 2,500.
Who lives in what?
I think like the Queen is one. That's her specific residence, and Charles. What?
The Queen doesn't have an official residence.
I mean,
she.
The place she calls home.
I was going to be rude there. Oh, it's great. Yeah, she's right.
I can't say Queen. She's got no, but you know what I mean.
She's in a box.
Yeah, she's also.
Yeah. Anyway, so Windsor. So it's 5,000 acres. So it's the smallest bit of land. 5,000, 2,500 football pitches.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. They can
quite claustrophobic. Do you know how many rooms they've got?
How many rooms?
Go on, have a guess.
Oh, where is this? Balmoral?
No, Windsor.
Oh, Windsor.
So it's only 2,500.
Oh, it's only 2,500.
No, that's the land. So the building.
So it's going to be quite small. It's like a cottage, really, isn't it? It's going to be a 2-bed.
Within that one building, so they've got 1,000 rooms.
1,000? Oh, that's ridiculous.
Rooms.
That's
the equivalent to a caravan in Bognor to them.
Yeah.
It's 300 fireplaces inside. So there's not.
As I said, it's just you're just like it might as well be 3 million fireplaces. I
They
can't even like. Comprehend.
You know what? Like when I leave the house, I have to check that all the windows are closed. I think it's just me. Like otherwise, I'm anxious. All the windows are closed. I'm just checking the knobs on the oven. Imagine having to do that. Like check all the windows.
Yes, I mean, talking about people keeping warm.
Or just be like, "Where's my phone charger?" I left. Is that? I don't know.
Well, most of these, you've got to think.
Idea.
Most of these,
I'll just order another one.
I just ordered another one.
There's on the BBC's reunion. They go back and they speak to people. There was a Windsor fire, thinking like 78, something like that.
Windsor did burn down in.
Well, it was part
90s,
of the building,
early 90s,
and it cost 34 million to do this one part of the building because they had to rematch everything. And there was a big thing about who's going to pay for this bloody thing, and they ended up saying we'll pay for half, but then they paid for it by opening up the to a museum.
Buckingham Palace.
So people paid for it on the admission. So
they let people go around Buckingham Palace and they charged whatever 50 quid a pop.
But it was like they had to go back to like get people to study how to weave. And they were 10-foot curtains that are 15 foot long for the bedrooms, like that. And it went on, and the carpets had to be specifically cleaned through this specific type of to recreate.
Well,
34 million.
No wonder they had a fire with all those fireplaces. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster.
And unattended fireplaces. No one's attending 300 fireplaces.
Did I turn that one off in 982?
I was in there 2 decades ago. Did I turn that heater off? Probably not.
Did I turn it off?
So Windsor, it's got 1,000 rooms, but 150 people live there in residence in terms of all the stuff they've got to do. 150 people to keep it going. 150.
Oh my gosh!
And bear in mind, there's 1,000 rooms. So think how much empty space, and then you add them all up, and that's 3 of the buildings they've got out of the 9. And do you see what I mean? When you start to go, this is like demented. This isn't a funny. You go to Windsor. There's a lot of homeless people in Windsor, looking up at the wall. By the way. And I said I was there before. There's restaurants around there, and when you see it, it's obviously a castle. I mean, it's a castle. We're not joking. That's a castle that people live in. And a little light went on up in the top, and I think, and it just humanised it because you see a wall and turret.
This is where my charger is.
But I saw the light go on, and my brain was like, there's someone in there living in this bloody great big wall that you're looking up at. You can't see the top of it when you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I looked at the 3 and I thought, I can't go through this, going through all the night, because they're up and down and some on the rough shore. I was like, this is like sick. Like, this is like they're demented. They don't know. They're like delusional. They're not but all those rooms, out of the 3 I'm telling you about, the land.
I know, it's insane.
25,000 football. Your eye can't see that far.
Yeah.
And it's for one immediate family to do what they want and walk around
They should
in.
open it up.
They don't care. Why? Why should we do it? Because not even why should we do it, but we don't have to.
You shouldn't be. I don't want people like you. You're not. But you're not the.
Well, it's mine, and I don't have to. So why would I?
The only thing that's a positive out of that.
You're going to say about the greenery.
Undisturbed nature.
Yeah,
and just.
But a lot of these are just empty fields. It's not like just pure forestry.
I know, but there's still nature there.
What's interesting apparently is that our the operating costs, as they're called, are about twice per person and per, even counting for the numbers of people in the royal family, but royal families in Denmark and Netherlands and stuff and Spain, and still one Spain. But and the Scandinavian countries in particular, ours costs around twice as much, even take into account the numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
As like
we just give them more than
Dutch, and they have a significantly more land and properties as well.
Oh wow.
So that's the land done. So I was just looking at. I said this was going to do this. So I was looking up the gold coach because when I saw it was a jubilee. That was what the platinum jubilee, whatever that was. That's when I got a TV. I saw the coach come out, the gold coach. And so it's always drawn 8 horse in front. So my eyes saw like a film or a fairy tale thing, but it was the fact that it was on the London street when it came out that I just thought, what is going on here? They're not doing it ironically.
Wave at the poor people. Come on.
Look at them kisses.
Did you see what they did when the Queen died? They had her going along in it, but they used the virtual reality thing. Did you see it?
No.
So it's like a hologram of her waving from like the 30s. So as it goes along, she's the hologram. They do it with
at the funeral.
No,
Yes, they're bad taste.
I think it was. No, but I think
Jubilee,
I think it was that. No, because it was when she died. They used that old footage of her. So they placed a hologram in it and went down the road, and it was her waving.
I'm sorry, but that is pretty cool.
It looked all right. But I just saw
it's like Tupac dancing on stage, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing they used.
Yeah.
But when I saw it come out, so it's 7 meters long and 3.5 meters wide. So it's huge with 8 horses in front. But it's again, they're delusional, so they don't even know how offensive a golden coach coming down the streets in what was you? Oh, I didn't say what year it was. 2022. For the Platinum Jubilee. So the visuals of it was like, we're talking, this is the years when we were talking about food banks and things like that. And out you come, the streets have been parted for you, and you come out in a gold-plated thing. Like, you don't know what's going on here. Like, you're sick. There's something wrong with you.
So removed from reality.
A golden coach, that should have been. It was built in 1760, so they've used it 260 times, I think, for special occasions. But somebody should say to you, we can't do this anymore.
Just off down the shops.
Just get
back the smokes. Yeah.
But the fact that they don't have to have somebody say, listen, you cannot do this anymore. You cannot wheel that thing. That has to be in a museum now.
Yeah.
You cannot bring that out with everything that's going on. After break, all that cannot. After the 70s.
I guess because it was built so many years ago, and it's coming out now. Then I can forgive it a little bit.
No,
but if they just made it now and they'd spent all that money on it now, then I'd be like, what are you doing? That is just disgusting.
But there's no class. There's nobody to say, listen, that should be in a museum.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be wheeled. That's a golden coach.
It's a little bit crass, isn't it?
Do you know what I say? It looked like a trumpy.
It's not classy.
Because it is gold. It's painted in gold leaf, I think it's called. So it's gold. The paint is gold.
It looks a bit, I dare I say it, nouveau riche.
Yeah. It's Trump. It's like Trump would go, this is amazing.
It looks like something like, I don't know, like a rapper might have. Just everything was awesome.
If you see...
And put like a Scarface poster on the side.
Oh my God, with hydraulics at the back.
Yeah. Well, just, but or like a cartel, when they raid like cartel bosses' houses and they find like they found this one
Scarface,
dude. Yeah, and they just find this one dude.
Grotesque gold plate.
He had a whole room for Justin Bieber and like an eternal flame with him and stuff. And they're like, all right. And loads of, and like paintings that he'd had commissioned of him with Justin Bieber. Sort of going...
Well, on it, there are actually like very detailed murals on this. When you look at it, like it's very ornate, and there are actual murals painted on the side of it.
If you'd have found that, if this is some kind of police footage of going around the cartel bosses, and they found that in the basement, you go, oh, that's a bit naff. Yeah. All that money and no taste.
Nobody says like we need to stop this now. You can't come out in that. There's no need. It's you got to realise the times have changed so much, and people are so poor that to come out in a golden carriage.
Yeah, no, I do get that. There's some people can't even afford a pint of milk. And then it's just like...
I think modernisation. I think trying to remain relevant and modernising is massively important.
Yeah.
I watched that coronation ceremony, and I was just baffled. I was bored and baffled and slightly.
Well, the recent,
slightly.
Apparently, it was just everyone was in uproar about it because they spent so much money on it, and it's just.
Well, something changed recently when Charles was being crowned, because everyone suddenly thought that what he's wearing looks like a costume. Like, it doesn't look real anymore. It looks like this. Like they joke. It's a joke. Yeah. Like the way they're dressed, all that gold and the crown. You go, this doesn't work anymore. Like, this doesn't work.
Yeah, anointed with the oils and stuff. It's all very symbolic, but like. Guess what? We've sort of moved on a bit from the 1240 or whatever when this was first done. And bless them, as always, the Dutch are very sensible and do this much better. Their royal family has adapted and improved, and sort of integrated into modern society. Queen Beatrix, bless her, she used to ride her bike just up and down and do things. They've all had jobs. Nice. I think she worked as a nurse as well. They all had jobs. The current King Wilhelm, he was a pilot, I think, for KLM, Dutch Royal Airlines, for a while. And they've had jobs, and they just lived, and they got the bus. They actually got the tram, and you could see them around. They go to shop stuff, and their kids just went to the school and stuff. And they were just around, you know what I mean? And they sort of a bit more normal.
Just PR people.
But can they do that? Are they harassed? Is the media a bit more like bigger for them? Like, because I guess it would be nice to kind of see Prince William on the bus with Kate, with the children.
Yeah, but other countries don't have that class system of they are better. Like, they don't have that.
But it's protection as well, though.
Not.
Like, I don't know, because obviously they'd be like, people would be hounding them, it'd be paparazzi, I don't think it would be as safe.
No, because no one gives a damn about the Dutch royal family. That's the thing. And the British royal family, a bit, guess what? Like, no one gives a damn about, I don't know, difference between Tom Cruise and whoever, like someone off Corrie, So, they're fine to go down the pub. Tom Cruise probably isn't. So, I get that. But like, it's just a bit about, I don't know, but
being in touch with.
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
Yes. And what comes off our lot is that the fact that they believe to their core that they are better, that they are the God's people.
They don't have to think about it. It is the way it is.
Yeah, but God and my right. Yeah.
But that's why this is difficult, because that's why I liked Queenie so much, because she dedicated her whole life to it. Like, she...
I never from the book, and I mean, people say like, "Oh, she was so stoic," and thinking that's not. You did nothing. Like, you didn't do anything. Saying I've done nothing, I didn't get involved in anything, is not something.
She is the Mona Lisa of politics.
They say that as like how stoic she was. You go, but she didn't. What?
She's a blank slate, and people just read into her different interpretations.
If she went and did this, and she fought this, and she changed the thing. You go, but saying you're stoic is like you're twisting speech to mean a positive.
One time, she wore a slightly blue dress around the Brexit referendum.
Okay. Oh, so I was looking up because I thought they're really removed. They are the soft power there, but they're not allowed to actually affect certain things, but it turns out they are.
Yeah.
So I read in 2018, she vetted 1,000 laws before they got to Parliament. Like, they had to. It's not a legal thing, but it's just that's what's done. And it covered things like justice, social security, pensions, race relations, food policy, even down to car parking charges, which are all wonderful now, by the way. I just say she sorted that out.
I believe that they've amended. They've had amendments to 160 laws, personal exemptions. A lot of this stuff about employment laws, pension stuff, so that they actually have exemptions so that they don't have to do that.
Yeah, so she vetted a lot of the laws.
What's in it for us?
A lot of the laws were to do with her properties and anything deemed to be a part of her specifically. So that's going on at the time.
So anything that directly affects them in any way, stuff like zoning laws or whatever, or building regulations, where they all had exemptions.
They found out that she.
I guess you would do, though, if it's your own family. You'd be like.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. So there's no up on a pedestal. Like, it's not like, oh, you're wonderful, you just sat there. You were doing stuff specifically. So they found out that she used that procedure to persuade government ministers to change. There was a 1970s transparency law that was still loosely there, and she locked it down. So from then on, she could conceal her private wealth. She put that in place to just make sure that didn't come out. And she demanded exclusions from proposed laws resulting to road safety and land policy around her estates. So she put the kibosh on that.
That's what I mean. It's just anything that kind of remotely impacts them. They're like, nope.
And there was a thing that came up that the RSPCA used to be the SPCA, the Society for Protection for Animals. But in 1840, they gave it the R, the Royal Protection, which meant they get the royal warrant, so they can go anywhere. They're like, sort of like the police. If they think there's a problem, they can go in anywhere. The only place they can't go onto is any royal land. That's the one exclusion. So they can go in anywhere animals are being hurt, but they cannot go on royal land. Just that, again, that was on accident. That was just put in place.
It's a bit sketchy.
So, and the vetting the laws, which is they're not allowed to actually do anything with the laws, but it's known that we just have a look at them and that one and that one and that. So you're getting all this stuff plus all the land. And I said, you have to take in them numbers. And then look at homeless people and look where you live and look what you do and look at what you abide by. And then suddenly the world seems a lot smaller. You suddenly see what you are to them. And then you think, what's the benefit?
Yeah.
Other than having a PR for the country, that's a nice thing to have queens. No, they sit on top of that country, one family, and forget all the other royal castles and smaller things. And you suddenly get this web that sits on the country, pretending that it hasn't got a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like this giant thing, even with its fingers in the proposed laws and changing things to suit yourself, that you go, oh, right, that was never sold to me. I always got the good bits and maybe there's some this and that. And you go, no, they're integrated in the entire thing. And with the land, you go, there's a visual thing you get. That many 25,000 football pitches for your house. Your house. As far as the eye could see, drive for hours.
I think when Charles became king, I think his total worth went up to, I can't remember how much he inherited, but his total worth went up to about 8 billion.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, so the land, how many royal things?
I'm not even sure that's that. I think that's just, I think it's assets. But some of the land, some of the palaces and stuff, they do own, but they don't control. So they do have the ownership of it, but they're not managed. They are managed.
Well, that's how they get you pay for stuff. Because we don't own it. You do, but you're not allowed in. But you just give us the money
because they sort of have a committee of people that they appoint.
There'll be people at the door. We own this actually. Like we're paying for this. So can I come in?
We're taxpayers.
Can I go for a walk?
But, I mean,
around
don't forget
acres?
you literally do. But you just have no power. And they live in castles. I mean,
it's like if someone just made Elon Musk just a part of the American government, and all his descendants forever, and they just have this weird position in the government where, oh no, laws don't apply to them, and that's fine. And also, but he can turn up and we'll have to bow and have ceremonies to him.
You'd be if you just keep doing it for long enough, then eventually you'll all accept it.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's just one of those things. It's just no one really likes him.
Yeah,
but,
when you step back, you're just like, it kind of, you're just like, why?
And bearing in mind,
my mind is blown.
Bearing in mind,
I just think it's one of those things. If you start thinking about things, you're like, because we all just. I mean, I did as well. I was very proud of our country and very proud of our royal family.
Yeah,
but they use that against you. They get you. But remember, we've just touched on a few things.
There is
Imagine the whole thing. Going back generations, police, integrate with police investigations. Everything things getting closed down. The Sun, getting accused of whatever, and they just give them the money. Don't worry about it. I mean,
the fact that they're publicly now talking about saying, oh well, yes, they've got a roadmap to Prince Andrew being back on the head table at the wedding, metaphorically speaking, and they're talking about 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, they'll forget. Just idiots.
But Harry, they're not letting that go. He's the weather vane. He's like the lightning rods for all the abuse and hatred. But I'm just like, really?
Just forget all the Epstein stuff. Yeah. It's fine. He's all right. He can come back in.
The fact that he was using public money as well. He was going on jollies. He was supposed that was when he was a trade envoy for Britain, and he was going.
I love the word jollies.
Well, he was spending $1.5 million, $2 million for 2 weeks out. He was getting flown and everything, and he was saying, "Oh well, I'm doing this for the nation," stuff. And he was going to visit a convicted child pimp.
Well, I was trying to get a guy on
public
here
money.
There
was one of these protection officers that was out. Where did the Queen give him to live? It was one of the ones in London. I can't remember. It's 2 exits. Oh, it's one of the places that he lives in at. And the protection officer that came out and wrote a book, and he was on the BBC One. And he said, when the interviews about him, he's supposed to come in through one exit, and he went round the other one. And because no one there, he rammed it with his Mercedes and broke it down. And he said, I saw the invoice. I said it was £8,000 that he charged to the public to fix that because he rammed it.
Oh my God.
And he said he was nasty. He was disgusting. One thing stuck with me. He said everyone has to be vetted that comes through those gates. They're the close security at the gates. Yeah. And they have a list of people, and 2 young girls come up. He said they weren't underage. He said they were young. He said, because I remember looking at the cars, they came up. But he had a lot of girls coming. And he said they were drinking Coca-Cola, which I thought made me think that they were young. And he said they come and they asked to speak to him and said, we haven't got you on the list. And then she got on the phone. There was 2 police officers at that gate. And he said, they met. And he said she phoned up to say, like, oh, we're outside, but my name's not down. And he said, give the phone to the police officer. And he gave it to the phone. And he said to him, listen, you fat C, if you don't let them down there, you're going to be doing blah, blah, blah. And he said, everyone could hear because it was night. He said the girls were embarrassed because he could hear him, you fat this. This is somebody who looks after you. He said, we had to let them through. And then he said afterwards, like, if anything happens, like, we're done.
Yeah.
And the girls would leave and they'd have to sort of drive them home in the police car. I said, but he was a fucking prick.
Because they have a responsibility to look after those young girls.
But he said, he called him a fat cunt. He said he was a big guy, and he said, but the girls heard.
You went so far without saying it. You went,
but
and he said that like 3 times. And then
he says a lot of things like that. He said he just didn't give a shit. Like, he would be making things would be going on, and he wouldn't tell them what's happening. And then they'd have to sort of chase around, and he just didn't. He was like a spoilt child because the Queen, like, she was his favourite, so he got away with everything. But yeah, that story just happened. He said, well, he said that in front to scream that at somebody over the phone to get 2 guys. That's there for his security, by the way.
And then, Harry and Meghan are over here getting all
2 normal people just trying to feel in love, and then they're just like, hate.
Well, they're over there hustling in America. I don't mind that. Like, whatever, you got to make money, fine.
Exactly. Well, he said, how are they meant to?
He said his
security.
His security says he had to get quote. He had to phone up and get quotes for security, and he said you basically need 24-hour security, and it said it's a minimum of $3 million a year. So you've got to come up with that every year for nothing else other than to not get killed. So think of that. That's the money you had to come up with.
So no wonder they're doing the book deals, the Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, I
every year, nothing else.
Yeah, I understand.
And the only thing he could only pay because he had some money left over from Diana, like left him some money. But I think it was like $6 million or something like, which is just security.
They just burn through.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he has. Well, guess what? He's a raw.
House.
Well, yeah, but and they live in LA and Beverly Hills and stuff. I mean, they're living a very expensive, lavish lifestyle. They probably need to make $10-15 million a year.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, they said that the royal house of the royal family as a whole. Sorry, they said their expenses are, I think, $128 million a year, which is.
I guess
that's your minimum. That's you breaking even. So
I mean, they could downsize and possibly go into a little village with a 3-bed house and have security, be able to pay for security, but have like a very, I guess, But
the thing is, they don't need
the Duchy of Cornwall.
Yeah,
they just moved them all into the Duchy of Cornwall. We set it up, and it'd be like the Lord of the Rings set in New Zealand. You can go live in, and the little Hobbit town.
Because no one's going to find them.
And they could pop out and go, oh, hello.
Because no one's going to find them there. Imagine they could
do tours and visits, and everyone could just go visit the royal family as they sort of potter around this little village.
Have a little donations box, suggested donations.
Yeah, just let them do their little thing over there, and we can turn them into a tourist attraction.
But with everything that we've just briefly gone over. You realise it's actually quite sick. And imagine if you knew everything, like if you're not just what's out in the public, if you knew everything, like how much it costs, you don't know. It's just things are so locked down that you don't know what's actually going on, what they're actually control of, the conversations that happen behind the thing, to do with the police, and like she's got they've got she's got immunity, hasn't she? Whoever's the head of state has royal immunity, which means you can't touch them. Like they could do anything, and anything laws, even civil laws to do with like their properties, you can't touch them. Like the head of state. Which you go, why is that there? Does it mean for fraud, anything? You can't do nothing, civil or criminal, nothing. So technically, you could kill somebody.
Well, technically, yeah. And also, I mean, there are no. there's no checks or balances.
Yeah.
I mean, that like...
Well, the thing is, because she owns the courts, so you can't... That's for he. So you literally can't, because you can't defend the thing that you can't be charged with the thing that you own. It doesn't...
Imagine all the dead bodies they can bury in all those acres of land that nobody can get to.
Yep.
He does mention in the book actually about the diamond, that when he sees the crown and the most valuable diamond in the world, it's like come from God knows where.
Yeah.
Right, so last thoughts. We've gone on for a while. Anything? What do you think about the whole thing now?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
No, it's not. It's awful. It is I agree with you completely. It is basically a sort of money-making scheme now. They are a very rich, powerful family who have who through history and whatever and circumstance have a position within the government and state, and they are clinging on to that for dear life because it affords them certain advantages and certain protections against law, and also it just keeps the money going. But it's their brands, their everything. It just keeps the money going, and that's all they're
I think the new generations are not going to care about them as much. They're now waking up and being like, why do we actually need them? Yeah.
But eventually land has to get taken. You can't have the people crammed in more and more and more, and then just have these one family, masses of as far as the eye can see, just nothing.
I still have a little soft spot in my heart for the Queen, and I think I always will, because
I just don't know what she did.
I know.
Tell me what she did for all her life.
But I think
she did nothing.
She lived through the war. Okay? That's what my mum always says. She goes, she was there through the war. She was like 12, and I was like,
Buckingham Palace got hit 9 times in the World War II.
Yeah,
got a little hit.
But I think it's just a nostalgic thing of every Christmas and this, and I don't know.
If you didn't know who they were, and I said to you, there's a family over there. And this is what they got. You go, what are you talking about? Why have they got all this stuff? And bearing in mind, you really think about it, it's only land that was taken once because they had a slightly bigger army. People died so they could have that. It wasn't given to them. Whoever gave them it won it by killing people, and I take your land. And when you go far, so it's like if I took a load of a street now by war, and then just kept going and kept it there and kept it, and 100 years, people going, oh, an amazing family. You go, no, they stole that. That wasn't. Who owns that?
Hey.
Like, why do you own that?
Yeah.
Welcome to Britain.
Yeah, welcome to
history.
Britain.
Go to the British Museum.
Yeah.
Like it's all a lot of stuff. All stolen. There's an awful lot of stolen stuff.
I'm not denying that. That's
It's never even about getting rid of them, because you could keep them, but there's got to come a time where you have to go, right, you go there with that. This is all not yours now. And that's not going to come by voting. They're not going to give it up. Why would you? Yeah. So there's got to have something's got to happen.
Well, that's the issue, is we're not even allowed to have the conversation.
Yeah. Well, you've got them, and the people that spread the news about them need them. So the media need them, and they need the media.
Yeah,
so
it's to keep them more relevant.
Yeah, it's only really online stuff that would talk about.
Because that's why I'm saying the new generations aren't going to really take any notice of them anymore, because I can't remember the last time I actually read a newspaper or But
it's not taking notice. You could not take notice,
Yeah.
but you've got to go, what are they doing with all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, we're not sitting here crammed in with, God knows you're going to start getting diseases spreading everywhere. The more we're crammed in, eventually you're going to have to turn and go, right, you lot, you're done.
Yeah.
You're not having all that. With one of their properties, you could solve housing. One property could solve the UK's housing problem. Just build properties on one of their properties. Yeah. And even that you could never do.
What about the immigration crisis, or so-called immigration crisis? They could solve that overnight. So they just stuck up a lovely new accommodation building up there. But they won't. So.
No.
Well, me before I was speaking to Will about how the French solved their royal problems. I think it was voting or something. They voted them all out on one specifically day.
Yeah. Imagine if they did that.
No, that was a joke. There's a lot of guillotines involved.
Reform. Oh, is there?
Yeah. Night of the guillotines. Like I said, we haven't got time for the voting. Right, so we've gone on for a long time. Poor old Will. Will, have you learnt a lot? You said yes.
It's like the stuff I did.
Where is he? Where's Will? Where's his bag? Who's on the door? Right,
I've learned a lot.
So I think we know what it is. I mean, we sort of said it in jest, but we're sort of highlighting. It's not funny when you think about the people that haven't got stuff. But it hasn't changed my opinion. I didn't even realise about it. And I said, we've just glanced off of everything that's actually going on.
Yeah.
So that's that. Are you off for next week? What you said you had something planned next week, didn't you? I was going to do an
I've got a
interview.
baby shower next week.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, whose is it?
It's one of my friends from work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Where have you got to go far or?
No, here in London, Shoreditch.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Ask her how many acres she's got.
How
many fireplaces?
She's in a two-bed flat.
Do you see what I mean? When you hear that now, everything suddenly goes, hang on, I can get 5 steps to each one of my walls in my house, and I feel like I've got it good.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, so that's the Royals, and it is what it is. Cool. Make up your own mind.
Next week, Russell Brand.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know.
Anyway, so thank you very much, and we will be next week. We're probably with an interview, Charles.
Yeah.
Okay, speak to you next.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than